Kenshi, a game of rags to riches, a nobody turned hero, a hero turned cutthroat. In this game, you can do whatever you want to. And today, we are going to be overthrowing the Holy Nation, a xenophobic patriarchy with an old man who never got over his mommy issues for a leader. For us to succeed, we will need a lot of money. But first, we must find ourselves a group of employees who will be highly compensated for their labor. Bodo's mission. Step 1. Get hella rich. Step 2. Recruit and arm soldiers. Step 3. Overthrow the Holy Nation. For today's journey, we are going to start out as an Empire citizen who lost his job due to the nobles seeing it fit. And who better than Bodo? Not to be confused with Frodo and the Fellowship. No. We are going to create Bodo and the Butchership. As we spawn in here in the beautiful Great Desert, you'll notice we are broke. Now, this means Bodo of course can't recruit any new people, except Bodo happens to know of a place where the Holy Nation practically has free labor ready to be picked. It took 2 days, but Bodo has made it to Rebirth, and after a tedious journey through the desert, he is currently honing his skills with a stick, while he waits for the Boys and Girl Scouts to be let out from their comfortable iron cages and into the dusty stone deposits. From there, he plans to smack one of them over the back of the head before running into the wild, carrying them over his shoulder. As much as the Holy Nation doesn't mind you terrorizing their workforce, they do mind you trying to free them from summer camp. Bodo, who tried to forcibly evict a Rebirth tenant, has now found himself in the same predicament, and furthermore, it only took the Holy Nation soldiers 3 days to make him obsolete as they cut off his left leg because they didn't like the way he was mining stone. This had obviously made Bodo very unhappy, as he would no longer be able to fulfill his dream of becoming a filthy rich bastard who could sit at home and drink sake all day. Unless, of course, there was a way for Bodo to get back on 2 feet. Having grown up in the Empire, Bodo would always follow around his father to learn the family's secrets. In their family, there was a tradition of passing on the father's name. Odo had Bodo, Bodo will have Kodo, and then Kodo will have... where was I? Oh yeah, the pub. Bodo had overheard some adventurous hivers talk about the mass industrialization that the hives in the West had begun, and what can only be described as sublime prosthetics. After 2 weeks of carefully observing the extremist Christians, Bodo had found his way out from the rehabilitation center. Seeing as he was always staying close to the ground, his stealthiness had improved dramatically, and all he had to do was nudge himself against the guards to move them to the side before slithering past them. And then, before the sun would rise again, he crawled to his freedom. After 13 long days in the sun, stealing food at night, Bodo had finally made it to Vane. As he made it to the shop and had a look at their exquisite wares, Bodo realized that hivers couldn't be taken seriously. Nevertheless, he sold some of his leftover food and got himself a high-quality hiver prosthetic. Now, back on both legs, Bodo was ready to start making some money. After gathering up a crew of intellectuals, Bodo went to make some fast cash to jumpstart his operation. Filling multiple bags with prosthetics that were more likely than not taken from those even less fortunate, Bodo felt good about himself. So he popped on his Usain Bolt leg before wandering back home, where he and his crew would shortly start construction of the Sake Distillation Company, a company which would reside in the hub, not due to the total lack of regulation of humanoid rights, but instead because Bodo realized they would need a lot of space in order to prosper. After slapping together their first farming facility, Bodo set out to find ancient science books in order to unravel the secrets of hydroponics. With hydroponics, you can grow any crop anywhere, which meant that Bodo could get his employees to make sake 24 hours a day. To find ancient science books, Bodo would have to go far into the desolate wastelands where humans haven't lived for 1,000 years. Coming across an old lab, Bodo managed to sneak his way past a dozen of spider bots before finding enough books to unlock the tech he needed. And now, with hydroponics researched, it was time to start farming rice. It wasn't much, but the money Bodo had acquired by legitimate means would fund the first farms. It then took 10 days, but the crew of well-fed and therefore not slave workers had managed to produce 140 kilo of sake. Bodo, a man with no time to lose, packed all of the sake into a pack ball before throwing it over his shoulder and sprinting back home, where sake was in great demand. Now just look at this, starting out with 1700 cats and 140 kilos of sake, Bodo would quickly turn the sake into 90,000 cats. Now this was a decent haul, don't get me wrong, but considering how easy it was to make money by other means, Bodo knew he had to upgrade. And so, Bodo used the money to set up a second farming facility, and even made a separate storage unit to keep the sake fresh. The first time around, it had taken his workforce 10 days to make 100,000 cats, and now it could be done in just a couple. And with that, it's safe to say that step 1 of overthrowing the Holy Nation has been completed. Money is no longer an issue. This leads us to step 2 of the plan, gathering a crew of powerful soldiers. Bodo had set his mind on recruiting only skeletons, as the Holy Nation feared these metallic beasts, and he found it amusing that they should be their downfall. His first recruit was Sad Neil, a skeleton which can be found in the Black Desert City, pissing himself at the idea of leaving his comfort zone. Up next was Burn, an ex-adventurer who has decided to live in a tower named Burn's Tower, almost as if the tower was made for him. A short conversation with the skeleton lets you know that Burn is very wise, so Bodo knew he had to have him. He agreed to join us, which leads us to the last skeleton you can always be sure to find. Agnew, a powerful skeleton starting out with 50 strength, but what he has in strength, he lacks in brain cells. You see, Agnew, unlike other skeletons, cannot speak. Bodo, slightly intimidated by the brute's grunting, knew that the Holy Nation would surely shit themselves if they saw him, so he unlocked his cage. The rest of Bodo's skeleton leash would have to be found in bars, or by knocking them unconscious and keeping them in a cage till they would be willing to fight for his cause. One of those skeletons said that where he came from, the nobility thought him worth no more than a garu, so that is what we named him. During all of this, Bodo had been spending hundreds of thousands on the finest armor and weapons to ensure that he and his squad would be victorious. With weapons and armor secured, the last piece of the puzzle would be to go through rigorous training. After having a small cut on his leg turn into a nasty infection, something came over Bodo. Maybe it was from being surrounded by skeletons all the time, but he knew that his flesh couldn't serve him well enough in his upcoming mission. So he dragged himself into the acid rain and grit his teeth as his leg was melting away. Burn was on the standby with medical care and a new leg, so Bodo felt safe. And so there he stood, with a new leg made by the finest craftsmen. But Bodo knew that this was only the beginning. So he got to work and started punching metal. For fun! Until he couldn't lift his arms anymore, after which he started walking through the acid rain, swinging and twisting his arms to make them snap off faster. And so, one arm lighter and with another soon to follow, you might notice that Bodo is quickly losing blood. But he had agreed to meet his metal friends at the local bar, so he kept walking. Having lost both arms, Bodo was losing blood as fast as a person who had just lost 2 limbs, and so he was in a race against time. And just before reaching the others, he collapsed. Luckily, Burn had heard his screams approaching and got very concerned when the screaming came to an abrupt halt. So he had Bodo patched up and thrown in bed. Bodo laid comatose for a week, with Burn watching him carefully every second. But now, just look at the man standing before you. Bodo felt more powerful than ever, and with him and his crew armed to the teeth, it was time to start pulling apart the Holy Nation. Bodo gathered up his soldiers and laid out the plan for them. First, they would strike the city of Bad Teeth, and when every man in the city had been crippled, they would move to Stack with the same mission in mind. Lastly, they would devastate the Holy Military Base, which stood as the Holy Nation's last pillar of defense. So they made their way to Bad Teeth. Let the bloodbath commence. Now, I couldn't tell you why, but after painting the entire ground red with the blood of the holy nation scum, these 5 homeless guys thought it would be a good idea to take us on. After an astounding victory leading to the death or delimification of countless holy nation soldiers, Bodo and the Butchership was ready to take on the Holy Phoenix himself. But given how strong of an adversary he would be, especially so as he is guarded by the Protector of the Flame, they would need to set up base outside of Blister Hill, in case anything should go wrong. And so they stood ready, overlooking the stronghold keeping the Holy Phoenix. And oh Phoenix, when I get my hands on you, you're gonna be... Yo, what the fuck? Just one sec, we got a bunch of Okranite dogs pulling up. But just have a look at this shot Agnew pulls off. Well, anyway, it's about to be night soon, so the crew is finally ready. It's time. Cue the music. They captured Sadniel, but we had in return captured the Protector of the Flame, and we could regain our strength much faster than any human could dream of. So just a few hours later and we came back for round 2. And just like that, it was done. The Holy Phoenix defeated and detained. Now, just one last thing. So, that's it for today's video. I had a blast making it and it took me quite a while, so if you enjoyed, please like the video. I have a couple of more ideas for Kenshi. Also, Bodo and the Butchership aren't completely done yet, so if you would like to see more of that, feel free to subscribe. My name is Sephian and goodbye.